ॐ विश्वंदर्पण दृश्यमान नगरी तुल्यन्निजान्तर्गतम् पश्यन्नात्मनि मायया बहिर्विभूतं यथा निद्रया यः साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोधसमये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयम् तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नारायणं पद्मभुवं वसिष्ठं शक्तिं च तत्पुत्रपराशरं च व्यासं शुकं गौडपदं महान्तं गोविन्दयोगीन्द्रमथास्य शिष्यम् श्रीशंकराचार्यमथास्य पद्मपादं च हस्तामलकं च शिष्यं तन्तोटकं वात्तिककारमन्यान् अस्मद्गुरून् सन्ततमानतोऽस्मि श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः परब्रह्मनिष्ठं स्वतो धर्मनिष्ठम् अहिंसैकनिष्ठं स्वशिष्यैः सुजुष्टं यतीनां वरिष्ठं गुरूणां गरिष्ठं दयानन्दरूपं मदाचार्यमीडे नमः श्री परमार्थाय संसाराध्यासनाशिने श्रोत्रियब्रह्मनिष्ठाय तस्मै ब्रह्मविदे नमः सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम् नमोऽस्तु ते व्यासविशालबुद्धे पुल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्र येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयः प्रदीपः प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दोग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्स सुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत् वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम् भीष्मद्रोणतटा जयद्रथजला गान्धारनीलोत्पला शल्यग्राहवती कृपेण वहनी कर्णेन वेलाकुला अश्वत्थामविकर्णघोरमकरा दुर्योधनावर्तिनी सोत्तीर्णा खलु पाण्डवैरणनदी कैवर्तकः केशवः पाराशर्यवचः सरोजममलं गीतार्थगन्धोत्कटं नानाख्यानककेसनं हरिकथा सम्बोधनाबोधितं लोके सज्जन षट्पदैरहरहः पेपीयमानं मुदा भूयात् भारत पंकजं कलिमल प्रध्वंसि न श्रेयसे मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम् यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्र रुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः I welcome you all to the 15th class of our Bhagavad Gita study. We will read verse number 23 of the second chapter that we were studying in the last class. Nainam chindanti shastrani
नैनं छिन्दन्ति शस्त्राणि
Nainam dahati pavakaha
नैनं दहति पावकः
न चैनं क्लेदयन्त्यापः
न चैनं क्लेदयन्त्यापः
न शोषयति मारुतः
न शोषयति मारुतः
When a rope is not known as a rope, then it is invariably mistaken to be something else, like a snake. And once I have the vision of the snake, then that induces anxiety, fear, worry, tension, screaming, shouting, sweating, palpitation. So all of these distressing mental as well as physical symptoms are a product of the vision of the snake. They are a product of the mistaken vision of the snake. So if these distressing symptoms have to go away, then the mistaken vision of the snake has to go away. Only when the mistaken vision of the snake goes away do these symptoms go away. And therefore they are a product of the mistaken vision of the snake. But the mistaken vision of the snake itself is a product of rope ignorance. And therefore, if the mistaken vision of the snake has to go away, then the rope ignorance has to go away. And the rope ignorance goes only with rope knowledge. So when the person sees that there is nothing here except the rope, there is nothing but the rope, then the entire thing collapses like a set of dominoes. All of these symptoms go away along with it. The entire structure built on top of the rope ignorance collapses. Therefore, all of these symptoms also go away. So similarly, when I don't know who I am, when I don't know that I am full, limitless, and complete, being one with Brahman, when I don't know this fact, then I invariably mistake myself to be something else other than what I am. I mistake myself to be this limited body and mind. And once I have mistaken myself to be this limited body and mind, then my vision of myself is that I am deficient, wanting, inadequate. I am apurnaha. And from this vision of apurnatvam of myself, there are a variety of effects that follow. An apurna self has to become dependent upon the world. Therefore, ragaha comes in. And the world happens to be unpredictable, uncontrollable, and unsustainable. Therefore, whatever I am depending upon will invariably go through ups and downs and will finally come to an end also. And when that happens, the same ragaha evolves into shokaha or sorrow. And therefore, all of this disease of samsara and its distressing symptoms are a product of my vision of myself that I am deficient, wanting, inadequate, apurna. And therefore, if all of this disease of samsara along with its distressing symptoms have to go away, then my mistaken vision of myself that I am deficient, wanting, inadequate, apurnaha, this vision has to be corrected. But this mistaken vision of myself itself is a product of self-ignorance. And therefore, if this mistaken vision of myself has to be corrected, the self-ignorance has to be removed. And the self-ignorance can be removed only in one manner, which is by bringing in self-knowledge or Atma Dhyanam. Therefore, Arjuna here is suffering from samsara and all of its distressing symptoms of shoka and moha. Therefore, Bhagavan recognizes that the root cause of all of this is Atma Ajnanam. That is why Bhagavan is giving Arjuna the Atma Jnanam. So Bhagavan is telling Arjuna who he really is. When Bhagavan is talking about Atma, we should not think that Atma is something something else apart from me that has to be discovered. No. When Bhagavan is talking about the Atma, Bhagavan is really telling Arjuna who he really is. And through Arjuna, Bhagavan is teaching each of us who we really are. And therefore, who am I? I am this Atma, the real self. And what is the nature of the Atma? Atma is of the nature of consciousness. I am Atma of the nature of consciousness that is not a part, product, or property of this body mind. I, the Atma of the nature of consciousness, am an independent principle that pervades this body mind and enlivens the body mind. I, the Atma, who am of the nature of consciousness, am not limited by the boundaries of this body mind. I, the Atma of the nature of consciousness, continue to exist even after this body mind disintegrates. And I, the Atma of the nature of consciousness that continues to exist even after this body mind disintegrates, cannot be transacted with, not because it is not there, not because I am not there, but because there is no medium for me to express. This is my real nature, and Bhagavan has elaborately taught this using certain crucial shabdas of Vedanta that Bhagavan uses here. One says Atma is Nityaha, meaning you are Nityaha. Nityaha meaning you are immortal as this Atma. Just as in a world of gold ornaments. Before the ornaments come into being, the gold is there. Even when the ornaments are there, the gold is there. And even after all of these ornaments go away, the gold continues to be there. In the world of gold ornaments, gold is Nityaha. So similarly, before this body-mind came into existence, you, the Atma, were there. Even when this body-mind is existing right now, you, the Atma, are very much there. And even after this body-mind disintegrates, you, the Atma, continue to exist. And not just before this body-mind, as we said, even before the beginning of the Srishti, you were there as this Atma. Not just before this Srishti, even before countless Srishtis before this one, you were there as this Atma. And even after this Srishti goes into Pralayam, you will be there as this Atma. And not just after this Srishti goes into Pralayam, but after countless Srishtis like this one that go into Pralayam, you will continue to be there as this Atma. Atma Nityaha. And Atma is Satyaha, just as in the world of gold ornaments. Gold alone independently exists. The ornaments have got borrowed existence. The ornaments have no separate existence apart from gold. The ornaments depend upon gold for their existence. Similarly, here, Brahman alone independently exists. And even now, when the world is there, including this body-mind, it is Brahman that really exists. And after this body-mind disintegrates, and after the entire world goes away also, Brahman continues to exist independently. This world only has dependent or borrowed existence, just like ornaments are only names for various forms of gold. Similarly, what I call this world is only names for different forms of Brahman. And where is this Brahman? What is this Brahman? You, the Atma, the real self, are Brahman. And therefore, you, the Atma, the real self, are Satyaha. Brahma Satyam, Jagan Mithya, Jivo Brahmaiva Naparaha. Brahman is Satyam. This world is Mithya. It doesn't have its own existence. And who is this Jivaha? Jivaha Brahmaiva Naparaha. Jiva is non-separate from Brahman, meaning that this Atma is one with Brahman. Therefore, I, the Atma, am Satyaha. And being Satyaha, I am also Sarvagataha, just like in the world of gold ornaments. Gold being Satyaha is Sarvagataha, gold pervades all the ornaments. Similarly, I, the Atma, being Brahman, which is Satyaha, am Sarvagataha. I pervade this entire world. And I, the Atma, am Aprameyaha. I am never the object of knowledge. Because I am the one that employ all the means of knowledge to gain knowledge. And I know that I am before I employ any means of knowledge. And therefore, I cannot be the object of any means of knowledge. I am aprameyaha. But at the same time, I don't need to be an object of any means of knowledge to know myself. Because I am self-evident, I am Swatasiddhaha, I am Swayam Prakashaha. Then the role of the Vaidika Shabda Pramana is not in revealing my existence. Even the Shabdas of the Vedas don't reveal my existence. I know that I exist even before I come to the Veda. What are the Shabdas of the Veda doing? They are only knocking off my misconceptions that I have formulated with regards to this self-existence, self-existent Atma. So the words of the Vedas are correcting my mistake. They are not revealing the existence of the Atma, but with regards to the self-existent, self-revealing Atma, they correct all of my mistakes and superimpositions. So I am aprameyaha and swatasiddha. And I am akarta, akarayita, meaning that I am actionless. And nor do I make anything else engage in action. As this Atma, I am actionless. Just like the screen of the movie, various characters appear upon the movie, and the characters, they talk amongst themselves, they sing, they dance, they fight, and they enjoy and suffer. But the screen provides support for the entire movie, but the screen is completely uninvolved in the movie. The screen doesn't act, the screen doesn't talk, the screen doesn't sing, dance, enjoy, or suffer. So similarly, this Atma provides support for this body-mind instrument as well as this entire Jagat being Brahman. But Atma is completely uninvolved. It is never and never the doer. It is Akarta. And Akarayita also, it never makes anything else do something. Because to be Karta or Karayita, there has to be some modification, and Atma has no modifications at all. न जायते न म्रियते कदाचित् नायं भूत्वा भवितावान भूयः अजो नित्यः शाश्वतोऽयं पुराणः न हन्यते हन्यमाने शरीरे. And Atma is not a bhokta either. Atma doesn't enjoy nor suffer. When the character is enjoying or suffering in the movie, the screen never enjoys or suffers. Similarly, Atma is never enjoying or suffering. It's not an enjoyer or sufferer, it is a bhokta. And nirvikaraha, as we said, Atma is free of all modifications. That is why it is akarta, abhokta. And why is it free of all modifications? Because Atma is attributeless. As we have seen, the drik is never the drishyam, rule number one. And all attributes belong to the drishyam and never to the drik. Therefore, Atma is attributeless. And all change can be talked only with regards to attributes. Only something that has attributes can change. The attributeless can never change. Nor does the Atma have any parts. It's partless, niravayavaha. And being partless, Atma cannot undergo any changes. Therefore, Atma is nirvikara. All of this Bhagavan has taught with regards to the Atma. And here in this verse, Nainam chindanti shastrani, Nainam dahati pavakaha, na chainam kledayantyapah, na shoshayati marutaha. So here Bhagavan is talking about 4 out of the 5 elements. We are excluding space, because space doesn't really destroy anything. But all of the other 4 elements, they are capable of destroying the body. If you take Vayuhu, Agnihi, Jalam, Prithvi, all of these elements are capable of bringing about destruction in the world. And they can obviously destroy the body. But none of these 4 elements can touch the Atma. Why? Because of 2 reasons. Number 1, Atma is not material at all. These elements can only attack that which is material, meaning something else that is made up of these elements. But Atma is not a material principle at all. And secondly, Atma belongs to a higher order of reality. Just like the screen is a higher order of reality compared to the movie that plays on the screen. So the characters in the movie can destroy each other. Or the fire in the movie can destroy a building in the movie. But the fire in the movie cannot touch the screen because the screen belongs to a higher order of reality. Similarly, one ornament can destroy another ornament. But no ornament can destroy gold because gold belongs to a higher order of reality. So similarly, these elements can destroy other elements in this creation, and whatever is made up of elements they can destroy in this creation, but they cannot touch the Atma because the Atma belongs to a higher order of reality. So because of these reasons that Bhagavan gave in verse number 23, verse number 24 follows from this. So verse number 23 provides the reasons that the elements cannot destroy the Atma. And therefore, in verse number 24, Bhagavan is reiterating that the Atma is indestructible. We will read verse number 24. Achedyo ऽयमद ह्योऽयम्
अच्छेद्योऽयमदाह्योऽयम्
अक्लेद्यो शोष्य एव च
अक्लेद्यो शोष्य एव च
नित्यः सर्वगतस्थाणुः
नित्यः सर्वगतस्थाणुः
अचलोऽयं सनातनः
अचलोऽयं सनातनः.
Here, if we do the Sandhi Vichhedaha, we get Achhedyah ayam, Achhedyah ayam, Adahyah ayam, Akledyah ashoshyah evacha, Nityah sarvagatah sthanuhu, Achalah ayam sanatanaha. So Achhedyah ayam. Ayam achhedyah asti. We can supply asti. Ayam achhedyah asti. Asti means is. The word was missing in this, so we supply a verb like is or asti or bhavati. So Bhagavan is saying that the Atma cannot be slain or broken by the Prithvi Tattva. The Prithvi Tattva is not mentioned here, but it is implicit. Because Bhagavan had said, Nainam Chindanti Shastrani in the previous verse. And Shastras, as we said, represent the Prithvi Tattva. So here, Ayam Achedyaha Asti. Atma cannot be slain or broken by Prithvi. We can add by Prithvi, supply by Prithvi. So earlier, Bhagavan had said the element cannot destroy Atma. But here, Bhagavan is reiterating that in a different language by saying the Atma cannot be destroyed by these elements. And ayam adahyah asti means the Atma cannot be burnt. And when we say by burnt, it is obvious that Bhagavan is talking about Agnihi. So Atma cannot be burnt by Agnihi. And ayam akledyah ashoshyah evacha bhavati. So the Atma cannot be moistened. Akledyah means it cannot be moistened. And we can add cannot be drowned, etc. by jalam. And ashoshyah evacha, Atma cannot be dried. So obviously Bhagavan means by vayuhu, it cannot be dried. So all of these elements, as we have said, they can mutually destroy each other. Like fire. If there is a fire, and if I pour water on it, the water destroys the fire. And similarly, if there is water in a pot and I boil it with fire, then the boiling water turns into vapor, and therefore fire figuratively brings about the destruction of water. Similarly, wind can dry water, and wind can extinguish fire. So these elements can mutually destroy each other. But these elements cannot touch the Atma. Why? We should remember the two reasons. One is Atma is not material at all. It is not made up of these elements. And secondly, Atma belongs to a higher order of reality. And then Bhagavan says in the second line, Nityaha sarvagataha sthanuhu achalaha ayam sanatanaha cha bhavati. We can supply. So ayam nityaha. Nityaha means, as we have seen, it has got no time-wise limitation. Everything in this world has got a time-wise limitation. It has a date of birth and a date of death. But Atma, being one with Brahman, survives even the pralayam. Even if the entire Srishti goes into pralayam, Atma continues to exist. And even before the entire Srishti came into being, Atma was there. Therefore, Atma is Nitya. It has got no time-wise limitation. Therefore, every time Bhagavan talks about the Atma, I have to mentally add, he's talking about me. So I, the Atma, am Nityaha. I am eternal, immortal, imperishable. And since my nature is such that I am eternal, immortal, imperishable, that is my real nature. And that is why I cannot stand the idea of mortality. Because whatever I am not comfortable with, that is unnatural to me. Like, for example, if a speck of dust enters my eye, then that speck of dust is not natural to this system. And therefore, the eye produces tears, etc., to try to expel it. The eye is not comfortable with the speck that is not natural to it. Similarly, if there are foreign germs that enter the body, then the immune system tries to neutralize and expel the germs because they are not natural to the system. So similarly, my nature is that I am immortal. And that is exactly why I am not comfortable. I don't feel comfortable with the idea of mortality. Something doesn't seem right. I don't feel comfortable with it. That is because my nature is that I am immortal. And because I am ignorant of the fact that I am immortal, I have taken myself to be the immortal body mind, but still I can never settle, I can never be comfortable with the idea of mortality because it is unnatural to me. I am Nityaha. And I am Sarvagataha. So Bhagavad interestingly in his Bhashya, he says, Sarvagataha, we know it is all-pervading. Bhagavad points out that because I am Nityaha, I am Sarvagataha. He just leaves it at that. He says you are Nityaha and therefore you are Sarvagataha. Then we may wonder what is the connection between being Nityaha and being Sarvagataha. So if we think about it, what can be Nityaha? What can be eternal, immortal, imperishable? Is really the Satyaha alone can be Nityaha and nothing else. Because other than the Satyaha, everything else is Mithya. And whatever is Mithya is Anityaha. Therefore, what can be Nityaha is only that which is Satyaha. And the moment you say that Satyatvam follows from Nityatvam, then Sarvagatatvam follows from Satyatvam. Whatever is Satyaha has to be Sarvagataha because nothing can exist without being pervaded by the Satya. The ornament can never exist without being pervaded by gold. And therefore, the fact that I am the Nityaha Atma means that I am the Satyaha of this entire creation, means that I am Sarvagata. So I don't have any space-wise limitation also. Every object in this world has got space-wise limitation, but I pervade this entire Jagat. And therefore, if we were to put these two together, Nityaha and Sarvagataha, I am negating all time-wise and space-wise limitation, which means that I the Atma. Again, I have to add I, the Atma. Bhagavan is talking about Atma, but I have to bring it to myself and say, I, the Atma, am Nityaha and Sarvagataha. What does this mean? That I don't have any time-wise limitation or any space-wise limitation. And if we look into it, why is it so? Because space and time themselves arise in Brahman. When they are a part of Srishti. Space and time are also a part of this Srishti. So before this Srishti, it is not just that space was just empty, there was empty space. No, even space was not manifest before the Srishti came into existence. Brahman alone was there, and Brahman transcends space and time. And space and time and this Jagat arise in Brahman just as the dream space and the dream time along with the dream Jagat arise in the waker who is asleep. So in deep sleep there is no space and time that is experienced. But once the dream arises, then arises the dream space, and dream time arises along with the dream. So similarly, in Brahman, it's the space, this what we call the space and time and this Jagat, they all arise from Brahman, like the dream space, dream time, and dream Jagat. And therefore, Brahman, Atma can never be limited by space or time. Because space and time are also mithya, Atma is Satyam. So, I am Nityaha, Sarvagataha. I don't have any time-wise or space-wise limitation. I transcend both space as well as time. Sthanuhu. Sthanuhu. The sthanuhu literally means the stump of a tree. If a tree has been, sometimes they prune these trees. And once the tree has been pruned of all the leaves and there is just the trunk and maybe a couple of branches, empty branches are there. Now, if the tree had been there with all of its branches and leaves, that would shake in the wind. But the stump of the tree doesn't do anything, it just stands still. There is no motion at all. And so literally, sthanuhu means the stump of a tree. But the meaning here means steady, stable, fixed, steady, stable. So Atma is fixed, steady, stable. It is sthanuhu. So why is it so? Because no motion can take place in the Atma. No motion can take place in something that is all-pervading. So we have already established that Atma is sarvagataha. So in that which is all-pervading, no motion can take place. And if you look into it, why no motion can take place? Because motion means an object moves from point A to point B. That means that it was at point A and it was not in point B. Only when it is not in point B can it move from point A to point B. But Atma is all-pervading. So what motion can there be for Atma? And for Atma is sthanuhu, steady, fixed, stable. So the fact that it is sthanuhu also follows from the fact that it is sarvagata. That it is all-pervading means that it is fixed, steady, and stable. And because it is fixed, steady, and stable, it is achalaha, achalaha. That is the next word here. It is motionless. Again, follows from the fact that I am all-pervading. And sanatanaha. Sanatanaha means I, the Atma, and ever the same. I'm ever the same, ever new, ever fresh. So it is similar to the word Puranaha that we had seen earlier. And we had said Puranaha means Pura api nava eva. Even though it's ancient, it is ever new. Therefore, even though I am ancient, I have predated countless srishtis before this one. I was there at that time, as we said. So I am ancient, but still I am ever new. Pura api nava eva. So, in other words, I am sanatanaha. So, as an aside, the original name of Hinduism and all of these isms, etc., they are all Western vocabulary. So, before the name Hinduism was coined, what was Hinduism called? The Sanatana Dharma. Sanatana Dharma. And why is it called Sanatana Dharma? Because it is ever relevant. It is ever relevant. There is no obsolescence for it. Why is there no obsolescence for Sanatana Dharma? Because Sanatana Dharma talks about only two topics. The first is Dharmaha, the second is Brahman. This is, if you were to say, give me two words that indicate the essence of Sanatana Dharma, it is Dharmaha and Brahman. Then what is Dharmaha? As we have seen, Dharmaha is essentially duties, values, and attitudes. Duties, values, and attitudes. So Sanatana Dharma, firstly, talks about perennial duties, values, and attitudes. These duties, values, and attitudes never become obsolete. They are relevant in every age. In fact, in every srishti, they are relevant. What are the perennial duties? We have talked about yajnaha, dhanam, and tapaha. Yajnaha are all the reverential offerings. Panchamahayajnaha, Devayajnaha, Pitriyajnaha, Brahmayajnaha, Manushayajnaha, Bhutayajnaha. So these are all this reverence and this worship and this respectful attitude towards Bhagavan, reverential attitude towards Bhagavan, towards my ancestors, towards the Vedas and rishis, towards fellow beings, as well as towards the entire environment and all other beings. This is relevant in every srishti. So yajnaha, dhanam is relevant in every srishti, in every age. Otherwise, it can lead to imbalance in the society. That can lead to instability in the society. Yajnaha, dhanam, tapaha. Tapaha is austerities. They are relevant in every age, in every srishti. Why? Because I need self-purification. I have to purify myself through voluntary hardship. If I become too comfortable, then I will not grow in the process. And for self-growth, inner growth, this tapaha is very relevant. Therefore, yajnaha, dhanam, and tapaha are the perennial duties that are talked about. And what are the perennial values? Like we saw, Atmanaha pratikulani haresham na samacharet. This is the foundation of how I should act in the world. I should not do anything to anybody that I don't want to be done to myself. I don't want to be hurt. I don't want to be lied to. I don't want to be cheated. I know this very well. And therefore, if this is the standard that apply to others acting to me, if I expect this standard, then it follows that everybody else expects the same standard from me. That I should not hurt, I should not lie to anybody, I should not cheat anybody. This is common sense. And this is also perennial. This will not change in any age nor in any srishti. These are the perennial values and perennial attitudes. Matrudevo bhava, Pitrudevo bhava, Acharya devo bhava. So why are these attitudes perennial? Because I have to have an attitude of reverence and an attitude of gratitude towards my benefactors. And my parents are my biggest benefactors because they have given birth to me, they have brought me up, they have gone through a lot of hardships in raising me. And they have made me who I am. And therefore, I am perennially grateful to my parents. And this is true in every srishti. And Acharya Devo Bhava, from the Guru, from the Acharya, from whom I get the knowledge. And even whether it be material knowledge or spiritual knowledge, I am again a benefactor. And therefore, an attitude of reverence towards the Acharya or Guru. Acharya Devo Bhava. So all of these are what is the Sanatana Dharma? It is all of these perennial duties, values, and attitudes. Sanatana Dharma can never become obsolete. It is ever relevant, ever fresh, and that is why it is Sanatana. And what is the second thing that Sanatana Dharma talks about? It talks about Brahman, the ultimate reality, the ultimate truth. And the way to come to Brahman is through following the Sanatana Dharma, through incorporating Sanatana Dharma in my life. I experience inner growth. I have inner growth, which leads to Chitta Shuddhi, or purification of the mind, that helps me understand the ultimate reality that is Brahman. And therefore, even Brahman, the second thing that Sanatana Dharma talks about, the Vedas talk about. Sanatana Dharma is essentially Sanatana Vaidika Dharma. It cannot be separated from the Veda. When we talk about Sanatana Dharma, it is what is Veda talking about? So, it is Vaidika Dharma. The second thing that Vaidika Dharma or Veda talks about in Vedanta is Brahman. Brahman is the subject matter. Again, Brahman can never become obsolete, and what the Vedanta talks about Brahman can never become obsolete because Vikale api tishtati iti sat. That which is there in all the three periods of time is what we call Sat. The Srishti, the entire Srishti may go, but Brahman remains, being Nitya. And therefore, Brahman can never become obsolete. And what Vedanta talks about Brahman can never become obsolete. The entire science, the theories of science may become obsolete. What Newton said gets replaced by what Einstein says. And what Einstein says today may tomorrow get replaced by quantum field theory or something like that. Somebody else talks about it, a string theory or something like that. The latest theory on physics can keep changing. What science says, and medicine keeps changing. The kind of treatments that medicine talks about can keep changing. And engineering can keep changing. What kind of devices we use, what we use to communicate, all that can keep changing. But Sanatana Dharma does not change. These two topics that Sanatana Dharma talks about can never become obsolete. And therefore, Sanatana Dharma is relevant even today and will continue to be relevant. Ages, 10,000 years from today, the fundamental human problem will still be there. Its solution will still be required. And not just 10,000 years from now, 10,000 Srishtis from now also, Sanatana Dharma will continue to remain relevant. So this is the glory of Sanatana Dharma. This is the glory of the Vedas. This is the glory of our rishis. So here, this was an aside topic since the word Sanatana came up. But here, Bhagavan is saying that Atma is Sanatana. That you are Sanatana. You are the subject matter of the Veda, of the Vedanta. The second subject matter. And therefore, you as Brahman, you are as Atma, you are ever fresh. You are ever new. And some of the shlokas here may feel somewhat repetitive also. Because Bhagavan is trying to hammer in the idea that Atma is Nitya. So Bhagavad Pada takes up this topic about why this repetition is there. Why is Bhagavan repeating Nitya? The Atma is immortal idea is conveyed literally in lots of shlokas using the same word Nitya, or sometimes using synonyms of Nitya like Sanatana, etc. So Bhagavad Pada points out that in the context of Vedanta, this repetition is not a dosha. Repetition is not a defect. And why is it not a defect? Because the subject matter is subtle. Students require time to grasp this subject matter. And therefore, some students may not still get it. And some students may only partially get it. So if somebody has not gotten it at all, the repetition gives another opportunity to understand this. And if somebody has partially gotten it, it gives an opportunity to improve the understanding. And we say that even if somebody has fully understood it, also the repetition is not a dosha, because it helps register this deeply in the mind. Because the mind has got its habitual thinking patterns. Even though I have understood something to be true, the mind has its momentum, and therefore the mind continues with its habitual thinking patterns. Because for countless janmas before this one, I have engaged in thinking patterns that have now become deeply habitual. And therefore, even though I understand that Atma is Nitya, in times of crisis, it is the subconscious mind that responds. Subconscious mind takes over, and at that point I suddenly cling to the body mind and say, I am anitya, I am anitya. Why? It is not that this person doesn't know, but this is habit. So very soon, if this person has done the Shravanam, he'll correct himself and remember the teaching and correct himself. So this repeated bringing the mind back to the teaching is required. This is what we call Nididhyasana. Nididhyasanam is meant to counter the habitual thinking patterns. And therefore, the subsequent repetition can become a form of Nididhyasanam even for somebody who has understood the subject matter. So the aim is to remove samsaraha, number one, through the acquisition of Atma Jnanam, and number two, through the assimilation of Atma Jnanam. So then Bhagavan continues in a similar vein in the next shloka also. So Bhagavad Pada points out that we can say moreover. Moreover as a continuation. The next shloka is moreover. It means it's a continuation. We are continuing on a similar theme. We'll read verse number 25. Avyaktoyamachintyoyam.
अव्यक्तोऽयमचिन्त्योऽयम्
Avikaryoyamuchyate.
अविकार्योऽयमुच्यते
Tasmadevam viditvainam.
तस्मादेवं विदित्वैनं
Nanushocitum arhasi.
नानुशोचितुमर्हसि.
If we do the sandhi vichhedaha, avyaktaha ayam, achintyaha ayam, avikaryaha ayam uchyate. Tasmat evam viditva enam na anushochitum arhasi. So avikaryoyam uchyate is there in the last part of the first line. Uchyate. Uchyate means it is said, or it is said to be. So what is said to be? Avyaktaha ayam is there in the first quarter. Ayam, avyaktaha ayam. Ayam uchyate. Ayam uchyate. Meaning the Atma, ayam Atma uchyate. Meaning the Atma is said to be. Atma is said to be. And Atma is said to be what? Avyaktaha. Avyaktaha ayam uchyate. Or ayam avyaktaha uchyate. Means the Atma is said to be avyaktaha. What does avyaktaha mean? Avyaktaha means unmanifest. Unmanifest means it is not an object of the sense organs. Indriya agocharaha. Indriya agocharaha, not an object of the sense organs, because we have said that sense organs can only perceive something that is an object, that is drishyam. That is the first condition. And the second condition is that sense objects can only perceive the attributes. They can only perceive these attributes of an object. And Atma is not an object at all, because the Atma is Drik, the seer, the subject. And secondly, Atma is attributeless. And therefore, it can never be an object of the senses. Or in other words, it cannot be objectified by pratyaksha, by pratyaksha pramana. Then one may say, okay, if it cannot be objectified by pratyaksha, by the senses, then perhaps it can be known by anumana, through anumana pramanam or inference. Like I know the fire on the hill without seeing the fire. Just by seeing the smoke, I can infer the presence of the fire. Bhagavan says, achintyaha. So achintyaha means that is unthinkable, unimaginable, inconceivable, unobjectifiable. So it is not an object of thought also. It cannot be objectified by thought also. Why? Because whatever I think of is not the Atma. Why? Because the Atma is the witness of that thought. Whatever I think of is not the Atma. And therefore, it is not an object of thought, and it is cannot be an object of anumana also. So if we put avyaktaha and achintyaha together, we can say that it's not an object of the senses. It cannot be objectified by senses, and it cannot be objectified by thought. And we can also alternatively say that it is not an object of pratyaksha, a perception, nor an object of anumana or inference. Or in other words, these two words, when we put it together, it is equivalent to saying it is aprameya, that we have seen before, that it can never be an object of the senses or an object of thought. And what else is Atma said to be? Avyaktaha ayam, achintyaha ayam, avikaryaha ayam uchyate. Avikaryaha, meaning it is not subject to change. Again, it is not subject to change because it is attributeless and partless. Therefore, it is not subject to change. And therefore, Bhagavan says, Tasmat evam viditva. Tasmat means therefore. Tasmat viditva. Tasmat therefore what? Viditva, having known. Viditva means having known. So tasmat viditva, and having known what? Enam atmanam. So having known this Atma. So tasmat enam atmanam viditva. Having known this Atma. And how? Having known this Atma, how? In what manner? Evam. So tasmat evam viditva, enam is there. We just rearrange it as tasmat enam evam viditva. Having known the Atma in this manner. Evam, it means in this manner. In this manner means like I have taught. Bhagavan is saying, as I have taught in verses from 12 to verse 25, in the manner in which what I have taught, knowing the Atma in this manner. Na arhasi, na anushochitum arhasi is there. Na arhasi means you do not qualify. He's telling Arjuna, you do not qualify. Qualify for what? Anushochitum, to grieve. You do not qualify to grieve. So if you are saying I am sad, then you are talking about a mistaken I and not the real I. When you say I am sad, that's the I there is the mistaken I. It is not the real I. You cannot say I am sad if you really know what the Atma is, if you really know who you are. You can never make the statement I am sad. Why? Because the moment you have said I am sad, you have objectified the Atma. You have given it attributes and objectified the Atma. You are talking about something you are seeing. You're not talking about the seer. You're talking about something that you are seeing and mistaken that to be the Atma. And then you're saying, I am sad. For example, it is okay to say the mind is sad. Mind is sad. That statement is fine. Vedanta will not disagree with it. But the moment you say, I am sad, Vedanta will object to that statement. You say mind is sad, all right, but you're not the mind. You are the Atma. And therefore, how can you say, I am sad? So, the first thing is, in the statement, I am sad, you have made a mistake, you have objectified the Atma. The second point is, you have said the Atma is also changing. Because we can then ask the statement, when did you become sad? So I became sad when I heard this news, or I became sad at 2 p.m. yesterday. something like that. That means before that you were not sad and now you have become sad. That means that in your vision, the Atma is something that is being changing from being not sad to sad. So all of this indicates that one has made a khichdi of Atma and Anatma. And then one is talking about the khichdi and not the real Atma, not the real self. So the statement, I am sad, is an invalid statement once one has understood Vedanta. A person who has understood Vedanta can never, ever, ever say, I am sad. He may say the mind is sad. Body may go through pain, the mind may go through pain, but he will never, ever say, I am sad. Jnani will never say that. So Bhagavan says, Evam Anushochitum na arhasi. If you have really understood the Atma as I have taught it, then you can never qualify to become unhappy. And tasmadenam viditva, evam viditva anushochitum na arhasi. And therefore, the other way of looking at it is that there are only two things, Atma and Anatma. And Atma being immortal. Atma being immortal doesn't qualify for grief. Atma never comes and goes. And Anatma also doesn't deserve grief because Anatma being Mithya is not even really there. They're not even really there. So are you grieving for something that is not really there? And therefore, if you have understood Atma as I have taught it, then you do not qualify to become sad. And if you are thinking that I am the killer and these people are killed, if I am the doer of actions and these people are going to be impacted by my actions, and again you are talking about the Anatma. If you understand yourself as the Atma, then you are never the doer of any action. And if you understand these people as the Atma, then again they can never be the enjoyers and sufferers of your actions. And therefore, again, you do not qualify to grieve. And therefore, with this verse, Bhagavan's teaching from the Adhyatmika Drishti is over with this verse. So whatever Bhagavan wanted to say from the standpoint of the Atma as to why saying that I am sad, becoming sad, is not valid. Bhagavan has completed saying that with this particular verse. So we said Bhagavan teaches from three drishtis: the Adhyatmika Drishti, the Dharmika Drishti, and the Laukika Drishti, from the standpoint of the highest truth, from the standpoint of Atma Jnanam, from the standpoint of Dharma, and from the standpoint of the world. So the first section about the teaching from the Adhyatmika Drishti, from the Atma Jnana Drishti, that is completed with this verse. And now in the next verse, Bhagavan makes a suppositional argument. Suppositional argument, meaning that even if you take the Atma to be Anityaha, meaning even if you say that the Atma is born and the Atma dies, then even then Bhagavan says there is no scope for grief. And why is that? We'll read the next verse. Verse 26. Atha chainam nitya jatam.
अथ चैनं नित्यजातं
Nityam va manyase mritam.
नित्यं वा मन्यसे मृतं
Tathapi tvam mahabaho.
तथापि त्वं महाबाहो
Naivam shochitum arhasi.
नैवं शोचितुमर्हसि.
The Sandhi Vichhedaha is Atha cha enam nitya jatam nityam va manyase mritam tatha api. tvam mahabaho na evam shochitum arhasi. So Bhagavan says, Atha cha enam. So the Atha cha indicates a change of topic. Because Bhagavan's teaching about the nature of Atma got completed with the last verse. And now there is a change of topic that is indicated by Atha cha. And then in the second quarter, Nityam va manyase mrutam. So manyase is there. So Bhagavan says manyase. Manyase is Madhyama Purusha Ekavachanam. Man dhatu Atmanepadi lat Madhyama Purusha Ekavachanam, which means Tvam Manyase. That even if you were to assume, even if you were to think, even if you were to suppose for argument's sake, Tvam Manyase. So if you were to suppose what? Enam Atmanam, meaning this Atma. If you were to suppose that this Atma, and this Atma is what? Nitya Jatam, Nityam Mritam Va. So in the first quarter, Athacha, Enam Nitya Jatam, Nityam Va, Manyase Mritam. So Bhagavan says, Athacha, Tvam, Enam Nitya Jatam, Nityam Mritam Va, Manyase. Nityajatam nityam va mritam manyase, meaning that even if you were to assume that Atma is constantly born, Nityajatam means constantly born, and nityam mritam va means it's constantly dying. So even if you assume the Atma is constantly born and constantly dying. So this is basically the general popular idea that I survive only as long as this body is there. I'm born along with this body, and when this body dies, I die. There's no other continuation. In fact, science would agree. If there is one statement in the Bhagavad Gita that science would definitely agree with, then it is this statement that if you were to suppose that that Atma dies along with the body, born along with the body, and dies along with the body, then Bhagavan says in the third quarter, Tathapi tvam mahabaho, hey mahabaho. Bhagavan is addressing Arjuna as, O mighty armed one, O Arjuna. Tathapi, meaning even then, Tathapi, naivam shochitum arhasi. So Bhagavan says, Tvam, Tathapi Tvam. So we take the Tvam and na arhasi, Tvam na arhasi. So again, Bhagavan says, you do not qualify. And you do not qualify for what? Evam shochitum. Na evam shochitum is there. So we take evam shochitum. So tathapi he mahabaho tvam shochitum. Evam shochitum na arhasi. So you do not grieve, you do not qualify to grieve in this manner. And why don't you qualify to grieve? Because that would then be the nature of Atma. If Atma were to die, were to be born and die with this body, then that would again be the nature of Atma, if that were true. The fact it is not true. But even if you were to suppose it is true, then that would become its nature. And there is no point in grieving over something's nature. Like, do you ever grieve that fire is hot? Do you ever grieve that ice is cold? Because that is its nature. So similarly, when something is the nature of a thing, it's not wise to grieve about the nature of a thing, because the nature of a thing is something that cannot be changed. And therefore Bhagavan continues this. He himself explains why there is no point in grieving. And Krishna himself explains this in the next verse. We will read that. Verse 27. Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityuhu.
जातस्य हि ध्रुवो मृत्युः
Dhruvam janma mritasya cha.
ध्रुवं जन्म मृतस्य च
Tasmat apariharyerthe
तस्माद् अपरिहार्येऽर्थे
na tvam shochitum arhasi.
न त्वं शोचितुमर्हसि.
If we do the sandhi vichhedaha, jatasya hi dhruvaha mrityuhu dhruvam janma mritasya cha tasmat अपरिहार्ये तस्मात् अपरिहार्ये अर्थे न न त्वं शोचितुम अर्हसि. So Bhagavan in the first quarter says jatasya hi dhruvo mrityuhu. So dhruvaha, you take the word dhruvaha. Dhruvaha bhavati. We can supply bhavati. Dhruvaha bhavati means it is certain. Dhruvaha bhavati means it is certain. What is certain? Mrityuhu. Mrityuhu dhruvaha bhavati. Death is certain. For whom? Jatasya hi. The first quarter we have jatasya hi. So jatasya hi mrityuhu dhruvaha bhavati. For the one who is born, indeed, jatasya hi. For the one who is born, indeed, death is certain. So jatasya mrityuhu jatasya hi mrityuhu dhruvaha bhavati. For the one who is born, death is indeed certain. So Krishna is just giving some common sense practical teaching here. That anything that is born has to die one day. And this is proved. And this also science will accept. This is proved, first of all, by our own senses. Because we don't see anybody who is living in this world forever. It is proved by our senses. And it is also proved by logic or anumana or inference. And the logic goes, yat kritakam tad anityam kritakatvat ghatavat. Yat kritakam tad anityam kritakatvat ghatavat. Meaning that whatever is a product, yat kritakam means whatever is created or whatever is a product. Tad anityam, it is anitya. Why? Because of being a product. Kritakatvat ghatavat, like a pot. So a pot, we see a pot is born, a pot is pot dies. Similarly, we can see thousands of things being born and dying. So there's a vyaptihi here. Means an invariable concomitance between being born and dying. And therefore we can generalize this to this statement. And therefore even logic proves this. And that's why we say science will not have a problem in accepting this. And then we don't need Shastra here. Really, the Shastra Pramana is not required for something that is obvious to our senses or which is provable purely by logic. We don't require the Shastra to come in. But the Shastra doesn't say anything against this. In fact, the Shastra agrees with this, but in a slightly different language, where the Shastra will say that this body is brought about by karma. This body is a product of karma. And since it's a product of karma, and the karma is whatever karma that brought about the body gets exhausted as the body lives. When the karma gets exhausted, the body dies. Because the body is fueled by karma, exactly like a flame is fueled by oil. And when the oil is exhausted, the flame dies. So similarly is this body also. And moreover, the Shastra gives examples of people who have tried to become immortal. In fact, science probably still hasn't given up the hope of immortality. So there are some billionaires that we hear about who are trying to alter their genes or trying to take some special concoctions and taking ice water showers and all of this, right, to try to become immortal. But the Shastra gives the examples, the Puranas give the examples of all these Rakshasas who have tried to become immortal, like Hiranyakashipu. He asked for a boon of immortality, and Brahma told him that's not possible. And therefore, he had to put a lot of conditions around his mortality to become effectively immortal. So he said that that okay, at least give me this boon where no man and no animal can kill me, and I cannot be killed during the day or killed during the night, and I cannot be killed within the house or outside the house, and I cannot be killed with hands and cannot be killed with weapons. So he put a lot of conditions to make his mortality, to make his desired immortality as airtight as possible. So he tried to put as many conditions around. But then Bhagavan always finds a loophole. When somebody's time has come, Bhagavan finds the loophole. And therefore Bhagavan also found a loophole where none of these conditions were violated. So he had to come in the form of Narasimha Avatara and drag him to his Vasapadi, where it's not in the house and not outside the house. And at Sandhya Kala, it was not night or day. And he had to kill him neither with his hands nor with weapons, but with his nakha or nails. And therefore, nobody can try to become immortal, is the message here. Become immortal with this body and mind equipment. Immortality of this body and mind essential. Not possible. And even the avatars who come in, the avatara shariras also have an end. It is not that the avatara sharira is immortal. Even the avatara sharira has an end. And and there's also this story of Parikshit and Shuka Maharshi, where Parikshit was given a date of his expiry, which was a certain number of days from that point. He had to die, 7 days. And Parikshit came to Shuka Maharshi and said that I got this news that I have to die in 1 week. And when Shuka Maharshi heard this, he laughed. He laughed. And then he explained why he was laughing, saying that you at least know that you're going to live for 1 week for sure. You are guaranteed death only after 1 week, but I don't have that guarantee. In fact, no human being has that guarantee. So the interesting thing is that death is certain. But when death will come is extremely uncertain. Nobody can say when death will come. So death is certain, but also very, very uncertain. So jatasya hi dhruvo mrityuhu. And dhruvam janma mritasya cha. So Bhagavan now talks about the other side. Dhruvam means it is certain. What is certain? Janma dhruvam bhavati. So birth is also certain. Birth is also certain. For whom? Mritasya cha. For the one who dies, for the one who is dead, birth is also certain. So this we know only through the Shastra Pramana. Through the Vedas we know this. This is a general rule that Bhagavan is talking about, that everyone who dies, for him, the birth is also certain. Because the Sanchita karma is there. The Sanchita karma is there, which is not exhausted. And that Sanchita karma will produce another body for this jiva. Of course, with the exception of a jnani who has burnt all the Sanchita karma. So this is a general rule with the exception of a jnani. And therefore Bhagavan says, Tasmat apariharye arthe natvam shochitum arhasi. And therefore again, Tasmat means therefore, apariharye arthe natvam shochitum arhasi. Tvam na arhasi. Again, you do not qualify. You do not qualify to do what? Shochitum, to grieve. Tasmat tvam shochitum na arhasi. Therefore, you do not qualify to grieve. In what regard? Apariharye arthe. Apariharye arthe means with regards to a choiceless situation, with regards to an unalterable situation. So birth and death is the nature of the physical body. And with regards to what cannot be changed, you have to accept it. So parihara means a cure or a remedy. Pariharya means parihartum yogyaha, is that which can be cured or remedied. Is pariharya, something which can be cured or remedied. And apariharya means that which cannot be cured or remedied. Parihartum ayogyaha. Incurable, remediless, choiceless situation. So not all situations in life are choiceless. So when we have a choice, I can act to change the situation. That's what we call a choiceful situation. But in some situations, no action is going to help, no wishful thinking, no prayer is going to help. So the only solution is total acceptance, and total acceptance without grumbling, without resistance. And if we say that I'm not able to accept a choiceless situation, then the only option is to work on accepting it. That is the only option. And therefore, for this, one has to prepare the mind. Because when the house is on fire, at that point, digging a well is not going to help. And therefore, the mind requires preparation, the mind requires conditioning over a period of time by dwelling upon the nature that a situation is choiceless. Therefore, the only option is to accept it. By repeatedly dwelling upon it, by conditioning the mind, that is the only way to accept a choiceless situation. So the only choices are act or accept, as we have said before. If the situation is choiceful, then of course, by all means, you can act to change that. But if a situation is choiceless, then the only option left is to accept that. Therefore, old age, disease, death are all choiceless. And therefore, therefore, grieving is not going to change anything. So then we will just introduce the next verse. In the next verse, now if Arjuna is saying that my worry is not about the Atma, I understand that the Atma is immortal. So I'm not grieving about the Atma, but I'm grieving about the Anatma. I'm grieving about the body-mind. I'm going to miss the body-minds of these people. That is why I am grieving. If that is what you say, then also Bhagavan says that you should not grieve. You should not grieve. And therefore Bhagavan has talked about not grieving from the Atma Drishti, and now Bhagavan comes down to the Sharira Drishti, and he says that even from the Sharira Drishti, one should not grieve. So we are already at the end of the class. So we'll take up the next verse in the next class. We will continue in the next class. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Hari Om.